What's up everybody, Superducks fan here for another Mustang Monday video. So, I apologize if the windows are down, if there's some extra wind noise and whatnot, but it's just way too nice of a day to be driving with the windows up. It's just beautiful out, just the right temperature. It's not too hot, not too cold, just right. So anyway, I just want to thank you guys once again for all the comments on last week's video. I will be doing a Q&A at the end of this video here and answering, a lot of the questions that you guys asked. But first, I want to give you a quick little update on my service appointment that I had last Wednesday. So, they did the oil change, no problems there, of course. And then the two other things I was going to have them look at were the home link and the pony projection lamp, which had the fragments in it and needed to be replaced. And so the pony projection lamp, they checked it out, but they didn't have the part in, so they're like, we'll call you when we get the part in. And so they actually called me on Friday, and I scheduled an appointment for today, and I had them replace it this morning. So the pony projection lamp is totally fine and all good now. And then the home link, I don't think they really have any kind of diagnostic equipment to actually test the home link to see if it's functioning properly, because they're like, yeah, we looked at it, it seems fine, and they just kind of threw their hands up in the air about that whole part, which is kind of unfortunate. But again, it works 75% of the time. It's first world problems, not a big deal, and so I'm just going to keep living with it. They did, suggest a few things for how to reset my garage door opener and try resetting this to, see if those help to fix it, but it's not enough of a nuisance for me to go through all that trouble just yet, but I may try that if it continues to give me problems here in the future. So that's it as far as the whole service update there. The only other thing to mention as far as updates go is that this past week I've been given multiple awesome opportunities that involve trips, and so the next few weeks for me are going to be crazy busy. I will probably be able to do a Mustang Monday video next week. I think next week is when I'll do a quick little POV, and that'll be it for the Mustang Monday video. But I think I'm going to be able to still get a Mustang Monday video next week. But the following week, maybe not, so just a heads up. But yeah, lots of exciting travel. I'll be able to tell you guys more about these trips as they get closer here. But the next few weeks is when I'll be going on all these trips, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm really excited for all of them. So yeah, but because of that, things gonna be super busy, and so I probably won't even do a weekly update next week. I will have one for this week. Because of that busyness, though, two things will be getting delayed. The first is the louvers. I wanted to Celica with a nice loud exhaust. But anyway, the first thing is the louvers. The side louvers there that I was going to put on the quarter windows, I just don't have the time to take those over to the paint shop, get them painted, and take my time putting those on. It's just not going to happen this month. So I'm going to do that probably sometime in the middle of next month. And so yeah, it's unfortunate, but I'm not going to be driving this a ton to car shows or anything like that, so it's not a big deal. And the other thing that's going to get delayed is the name change for the channel. I was mentioning, here and there how I'm working on a name change. I'm waiting for my graphic design artist guy to come up with everything and finalize everything. We've been going back and forth working on some stuff, making the decisions in regards to the brand and whatnot. I think we've reached a consensus about the new name and all that kind of stuff, so it's just developing the artwork and all that. But that all takes more time than I'll have over the next few weeks to spend, so that's going to probably be pushed to mid-June as far as the name change goes as well. But again, it'll be worth the wait. It's gonna be good. I want to just make sure I get this right, because rebranding can be very tricky and not the smoothest of processes. So I want to make sure I take my time and do it right before I just rush something out. But anyway, so that's it as far as all the updates here on the channel and the Mustang. So I'm gonna just actually pull off and just do the Q&A portion parked. That way I can actually read the questions safely and answer them for you guys. Alright, so now for the Q&A part. First, I want to thank everyone that took the time to ask some questions here for the Q&A. The first is from Seth Robinson, who asks a couple of different questions here. First, what is your dream car, any budget? That would be the Ferrari F12 TDF. What is the best first car with a 10K budget? Again, this every time people have questions about the best starter car or car for any type of budget, it always depends on what kind of car you need. Do you need four doors? Do you need, all-wheel drive? There's multiple different good best first cars depending on where you live, what your situation is, and things like that. So it's hard to make a blanket statement to cover everyone, but a general recommendations, some of my go-to first cars that I recommend are a Civic Si, the 06 to like 09 body style. Those are, you know, well under $10,000, super reliable, still very much fun with the VTEC, the fantastic 6-speed manual, and just a really easy manual to learn on too if it's your first time ever driving manual. And so that's a really great first car. Another one would be a 350Z if you like something that's rear-wheel drive. You know, those can be a little tricky in the rain from what I've heard, and you know, again, it's no back seats, so a little less practical. Honda S2000 is another one that's a fantastic vehicle that you can get for under 10,000 bucks here. And so those are two other good starter cars. If you want something with a little more straight line performance, you can go to, you know, one of the Mustangs or Camaros. Even some of the V6 ones are, you know, pretty respectable in terms of performance, but you can even get used V8 ones pretty affordably as well. And so that is another good go-to, you know, first car under 10,000 bucks. He also asked, what's my first car? A few years ago I did a video called like running Carfaxes on all my old cars, and I go into depth about my car history there. But my first car was a 1997 Subaru Impreza Outback Sport, which I did some mods that a typical 16-year-old would do to his car. But I really love that thing, and I still miss it from time to time. And the last question he asks is, what do you do for a living? I do YouTube full-time. I started doing YouTube full-time back in the summer of 2015. And so, you know, it's not making me rich like, you know, some of these other guys you might see living these supercar lifestyles and stuff like that. But, I mean, I can do what I love, and it pays the bills, and I can't ask for anything more than that. And so I'm really just grateful that I'm able to do this full-time. So, yeah, that's all I do for a living is the YouTube channel. Christopher or Alana, I believe is how you pronounce that. Sorry if I butchered it, asks, if you were to buy a pickup truck, what brand would it be? I have no interest in trucks whatsoever, but if I were to buy a truck, it would be the first-gen Ford Raptor with a V8. I think those are great, and yeah, that would be my pick. And 17MGTP asks, what kind of highway miles per gallon are you getting here in the GT? And that's one of the most impressive things about the GT is, you know, even though you have a way bigger engine than the EcoBoost, my highway fuel economy is around 26 to 27 miles per gallon, which isn't really far off from the EcoBoost. The EcoBoost I'd get anywhere between 28 to 30, and so this thing does really good on the highway. And even if I really take it easy and it's like a low speed limit highway, I can even get close to 30, depending on, you know, the road conditions and whatnot. But I mean, it does really, really well. And I have the 355 gears in mine as well, so it's a little bit shorter than the standard 331s, not quite as aggressive as the 373s in the performance package, but just really, I'm really impressed with how good this thing does on the highway. Bill Phillips asks, have you ever used line lock? Why not? Simple answer is tires aren't cheap, and you know, it'd be great to do burnouts, you know, whenever I felt like it. And I mean, I probably will do a short one at some point here, but I don't have a burning desire to do a burnout. You know, it's just the line lock is a cool feature though, and I do have 2 tires left over from the accident actually that are still usable, and you know, they said I shouldn't actually drive on them for a long period of time, but I may at some point, if I'm swapping tires and it's easy, throw those on and do a huge burnout at some point. But yeah, so but yeah, basic reason is, you know, tires aren't cheap, and I don't want to just burn them off for fun. Ivan Nichols asks, considering the fact that you like classic and vintage cars, would you ever own one? Or do a type of project build on a classic? It would be cool to see. I do love classic and vintage cars, but I do not have the time to do any kind of project build. Anyone that's ever restored or worked on a classic, or any car in general, but especially a classic, can tell you how temperamental they are and how it can be multiple years if you're just doing it weekends kind of thing. And it's a lot of work. I'm not the handiest of people anyway. I mean, I can turn a wrench to do basic stuff, but I'm by no means any kind of mechanic or do-it-yourselfer. So, you know, whenever I do get classic cars, I certainly want to own multiple classic cars in my life. And whenever I do buy those, I want them to be good driver quality cars that I can literally just buy, hop in and drive. I don't want to do anything with them. I don't know how to do anything with them. I mean, the nice thing about older cars is it's a lot simpler, so it's easier to do things. But you know, I have a few good classic car places that I know that work on them, and so I would probably just take it there and have experts that know what they're doing do this kind of stuff, instead of having me screw up a priceless classic, you know, vehicle that can only be original once and whatnot. So yeah, but I definitely want to own multiple classics at some point. Josh Bilbo asks, what are the 5 things you like most and 5 things you hate about the Dodge Challenger Hellcat? I'm looking into buying one. They're really the only downsides about the Hellcat. I mean, I kind of did a video where I talked about the Challenger versus the Mustang Camaro, and so you can watch that to see the comparisons between the muscle cars. But the Hellcat, the only downsides are they're not the greatest reliability wise. There's a few people that have had some issues with small little things, nothing huge. But like Mike Streetspeed 717, when he had his, I think the clutch went out on basically a brand new Hellcat, and a few little things like that, that could be a nuisance. And the only other thing that's bad about the Challenger Hellcat and all Challengers in general is their poor front small offset crash test rating. So if you look at the IIHS videos, if someone crosses a center line and nips your front end there, it doesn't protect very well. And the Camaro is the best out of the 3. The Mustang also is acceptable in its crash performance in that type of crash, but the Challenger is a poor rating, and the dummy, they actually had to unbolt the dummy's foot from the leg of the dummy in order to get it out. So you would most likely lose your left foot or your left leg if you're ever in a serious front end small overlap crash in the Challenger. So that's just, again, I mean, most people buying performance vehicles don't care about safety that much, but it's just something worth considering. It's just nice to have a safe vehicle. But those are the only downsides. Otherwise, the Hellcat is fantastic. It's amazing. I'm so glad that they even made them and that they continue to sell, and they're doing really, really well. And I think it's definitely worth owning. If those 2 things don't bother you, it's just a really sweet ride. PERX asks, what's your favorite economical car? Corolla, Focus, Cruise, etc. My favorite is the Scion IM that I reviewed a year and a half or so ago. The main reason being it's Toyota, so it's incredibly reliable. It's got the basic 4-cylinder bulletproof engine under the hood, and the one I had the manual. It's a hatchback. It's very fun with its handling, actually, and it's enough power that it's one of those cars you have to redline everywhere basically, but the little motor can take it since it's a little basic Toyota motor. And so I think it's a really great car, and you can get those things for like under $20,000, all options included kind of deal. And so now the Scion IM is the Toyota Corolla IM, I believe, but it doesn't really matter. It's the same thing. And so that's, I think, my favorite go-to economical car. Although for a couple thousand more, you could have a Fiesta ST. Probably wouldn't be as reliable, but probably definitely a lot quicker and very fun as well. ThunderBuddy01 says, one, out of all the cars that you've owned, like the Mini, BRZ, EcoBoost, Mustang, and the GT, which would you say was your favorite one and why? And so basically, the funny thing is, looking back on all the cars I've had, like I said in the beginning here, my 97 Subaru Impreza, my 2006 Subaru Legacy GT Spec B, and then, the Mini, the BRZ, the EcoBoost, and the GT. The one that I find myself missing the most is actually the Legacy GT Spec B. I loved, the brick red leather. It was just the perfect amount of power, 250 horsepower, 5-speed manual. It handled really well. And I mean, that's the car that I've owned for the longest, so that might be part of the reason why I missed that one the most, and the one that I guess I really would say is my favorite. But then again, the BRZ was also the one that introduced me to rear-wheel drive cars and really helped to I guess help this channel to grow and get its start. So I always look back fondly on that car. The Mini was very unreliable. EcoBoost was kind of a mixed bag as well here, especially towards the end. The GT is, I think, the favorite car that I've owned to date. But that's just because it's the nicest car I've owned to date, and it has everything I've really wanted, I guess. So the GT is probably my favorite so far, but I think the one I find myself missing the most is the Legacy GT. And I kind of wish I had that car back. I had it paid off and stuff. I shouldn't have even really sold it. I didn't really have to. I was just like, well, I can just drive the BRZ in the winter and I'll be fine. And I didn't see the need for 2 cars. But I kind of regret getting rid of that car, and I feel kind of bad about it. But the current owner, I follow her on Instagram, and she is absolutely loving it and having a great time with it. So I'm glad to see it, doing well at its new home. ThunderBuddy01 also asked for a second question. What is your favorite car that you've ever reviewed? And that's a really, really tough one because I've reviewed so many awesome cars. You guys, can remember all my crazy reactions to all of them. I think that the top three off the top of my head, the ZL1 Camaro that I just reviewed was fantastic. But the Jag F-Type R was one that was just tons of power as well, but also the back end of that thing got way looser than the ZL1, so that made it a little more dicey, which made it even more exhilarating in some ways. So that was probably one of the top ones. And the Shelby GT350 is another one that's really one of the all-star cars in my book that I've ever driven. It's just so much fun with that high red line and just a fantastic vehicle. So those are probably my top three, but there's lots of other honorable mentions and cars that I really loved reviewing as well. And the last question is by Efren Soto, I think, and he says, if you're going to get an exhaust for your GT, which one would you choose and why? And I get this question a lot. So many people, everyone's like, when are you gonna get an exhaust? When are you gonna get an exhaust? And if you've been watching these videos, you already know I'm gonna wait until I see if Ford does a bullet Mustang and if I'm going to trade this one in for that before I go and buy an exhaust for this and then rip it off 6 or 9 months later. So I'm not doing an exhaust until I know what's up with that. But if I were to keep this and I were to do an exhaust, most likely it would either be the Touring or it would be the Corsa Sport. And the reason why is especially with the BRZ and the EcoBoost, both of those I did really loud exhaust and I regretted it fairly soon afterwards. And over time, they both got really annoying with the drone and just waking up the neighbors, being obnoxious. I like flying under the radar. That's why I have a dark green Mustang. I like darker, more subdued colored cars. I don't want to do some crazy wrap. I don't like, standing out that much. And I don't want my exhaust to do that either. So the Borla Touring is definitely super mild, but gives you a little bit more sound, but still is kind of like a more aggressive OEM kind of setup, I think. The Corsa Sport is supposedly about as quiet as stock whenever you're taking it easy, but then whenever you really open it up, it does get really loud. And that one, I really like the fact that, it has that dual mode and it's supposedly really no drone, really high quality exhaust with Corsas. Everyone seems to love Corsa exhausts, but I don't know if every time I floor it, I want to alert the surrounding 20 miles either. So, it's one of those things. I like kind of being able to redline this and hearing it myself, but not having everyone at the nearby police station hear it as well. So that's kind of the trade-off of that. So I still think I'm leaning towards the Borla Touring over the Corsa Sport, but again, there might be some new options. But that's why I really hope that they just do a 2018 Bullet the right way and that I just buy that, because the 2018 Mustangs have the active exhaust option. That would be perfect for me. That way I just have a button, I can flip a switch in here whenever I want to be loud, and I can have it quiet whenever I want it to be quiet. And that is really the ideal setup for me. So I'm hoping they do a Bullet right, I get the Bullet with the active exhaust, and then that'll be perfect. I'll just leave it stock and I'll be set. But yes, that's it for all the Q&A here and everything for the Mustang Monday. Sorry this one's a little bit longer, but hopefully you guys enjoy the Q&A. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you next week. Take care.